Welcome to episode 4 of Ted's Book Talk. My name is Ted Sutton. Currently, I'm a law student at the University of Wyoming College of Law, and I'm also working as an incorporation specialist here at Corporate Direct this summer. Today, I'm extremely ecstatic about who our guest is, none other than the man, the myth, and the legend, Robert Kiyosaki.
And como está?
Muy bien. So,
how's your Spanish after Chile or Peru or wherever you were?
my Spanish is okay. So,
Yeah, another thing I want to say is that I want to commend you. You have fantastic parents.
thank you.
If there is one thing when I look, now that I'm an old man, I look back is the importance of strong parents. And your mom and dad are incredible with their dedication to you and your sister. It is fantastic.
Mhm.
So
I totally agree, Robert, and it really means a lot hearing that from you. My dad being a corporate attorney, my mom being a doctor, I'm very lucky to have them, and they're role models, and they're role models for me, and I think that they're role models for other people as well.
And what happens to this is the biggest lie ever told, is they live happily ever after. I mean, you've seen there's no such thing as a man and wife or whatever you get married, you live happily ever after. Life is problems. You have kids, you got more problems. You got money problems, there's even bigger problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of money problems, that's the topic of the book today is fake, which is one of your more recent publications. You talk a lot about fake money, fake assets, and fake teachers. So the first question I have for you, Robert, is that in your book, you list 3 different types of money. Which ones are real and which ones are fake?
Well, it's been a while since I wrote that book, but money is my subject. It was not a subject taught in school. And I was a little greedy kid at 9 years old going, well, what is money? And then I think the problem today, we don't have financial education in our schools. So we have this extreme gap between rich and poor, working class, and all this. Mm-hmm. And that's why I write my books. But I talk about, there's fake money, which is government money. It's fiat currency. And basically, as an attorney, you'll know it's money only because the law says it is money. And if you break the law, we throw you in jail. I mean, that's the only reason it's money. Oh, and it has to pay tax. So that's the US dollar, the Chinese yen, the yuan, and all that. So that's all it's fiat money, it's fake money. Mm-hmm. And then there's God's money, which is gold and silver. The reason I call gold and silver is because gold and silver have been here since the earth was formed. And guess what, Teddy? Long after you and I are gone, gold and silver will still be here. And I think it'll still be money because it's so scarce. And so supply and demand. And then there's Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, as they call it right now. And I didn't understand Bitcoin until about a year ago. And the more I looked into it, it's people's money. The central bank, the Fed, the Bank of Japan, the European Central Bank, they can't control it. So citizens like you and me control Bitcoin. And the reason I like Bitcoin is because when I look into it, is that while the Fed today is printing mega trillions, as you know, Bitcoin is halving. They're making fewer and fewer Bitcoin by design. Mm-hmm. So in many ways, Bitcoin is tracking gold and silver. It gets scarcer, whereas the fiat, fake dollar, yen, euro get more plentiful. Mm-hmm. And very simply that. So you look at the guys who are working for, let's say, $25 an hour, they're screwed. Because the money is just being printed more and more underneath them. So their savings get depleted and stuff like this because they print more. Anyway, that's the 2 types of money and fake money.
Right. Yeah, and in your book, I know that you have that graph about, I want to say several dozen times, about the value of gold in relation to how other currencies have dropped in relation to it over time when it comes to their value. So yeah, that was really eye-opening. And obviously I knew that the Fed prints money.
Yeah.
But, like you said, dollars are more expedient, the paper assets, but gold will always be here. And with cryptocurrency, I don't really understand it yet, but I know that other states like Wyoming, where I'm going to law school, have passed laws that have made it easier for banks to open up bank accounts for cryptocurrency. So that'll be on the forefront. I mean, I'm not too familiar with it right now, but um, you're totally right. I mean, I think eventually with the dollar going down, then gold and crypto will still be there.
And I think silver is the best deal today, just because you're in Nevada, big silver state. And I've owned silver mines, and I've owned gold mines, and I've owned oil wells, still own oil wells.
Mhm.
But what they say is when gold breaks down the door, silver comes rushing through. So today, gold is at a near all-time historic high. When it hits around $1,900, it's a historic high, whereas silver is still at a 70% low. And so it's just a matter of value and trust. And gold only means they don't trust fiat money. Gold has no value. It's just they don't trust the Fed.
Mhm.
Then it's Bitcoin, same as silver. So silver for your age group, it's about $20 today.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, silver is, I do agree it's a good deal. Maybe I'm biased because I'm from Nevada, but
And the silver.
you're totally right. And a lot of the main reason why people invest the way they do is because of the fake teachers that are out there. So could you explain for everyone what the difference is between a real teacher and a fake teacher?
You're asking, my poor dad knew nothing about money, PhD, poor, helpless, desperate. And my rich dad was a man with no money. I mean, no education, but lots of money. So I had to choose when I was about your age, in my 20s, who was I going to listen to, my poor dad or my rich dad? And my poor dad wanted me to go and fly for the airlines, United Airlines. Well, I don't know if you know this, but I just came out with this book here. It's called Who Stole My Pension? It came out in January 2020. If I had flown for United Airlines, I had no pension, because in 2002, the PBGC, the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation, and the unions, and Wall Street took all the money out. So my classmates who are pilots for United, making probably 400,000, 500,000 a year, are unemployed and no pensions. So pensions are a very, very hot subject to me. So that's kind of why I'm at where, but when I talk about fake teachers, I am a Marine pilot, U.S. Marine Corps. That means I shot communists. I didn't disrespect them, I had tremendous respect for the NVA, North Vietnamese, and the Viet Cong. They were fighting for what they thought they were right. So I didn't hate them, but they were very good also. Right. So when I talk about that, I came back from Vietnam, and I get spit on. I got eggs thrown at me, not too far from UC Berkeley. I was like crapped on. Well, what happened to those hippies and draft dodgers and communist pinkos? They became school teachers. They're Marxists. They're left-leaning Marxists who hate capitalists. So I have kind of this Marine Corps edge. Once you've been shot at by the best, you haven't lived until machine gun fire is going through your aircraft, and then you come home and somebody hits you with an old eight. You kind of get bitter somewhere. So I don't like school teachers. My whole family are school teachers. They're good people, but they're Marxists. They don't like capitalists. And that's what disturbs me. So you look at the gap between the rich and everybody else today is because our school teachers are teaching people to be Marxist. But school teachers, and I've said this about Marx, this is what I always studied. He wasn't a bad man. You see, Marx was anti-royals. He was anti-feudal system. So he didn't like Princess Di and Prince Harry and Meghan and all that. That wasn't his cup of tea. He says, those sons of a bitches kept the working class poor, which was true. So that was Marx. And Marx, in Marx's writings, he said, for there to be workers' utopia, which is Bernie Sanders, socialist utopia, there had to be capitalists, because capitalists would teach people about money. And when you taught somebody about money, but what happened, Teddy, during my generation was that the Marxists became school teachers without financial education. Mm-hmm. So today, they're the ones who are left-leaning liberals, not bad people, don't get me wrong. They just don't know anything about money. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? And they influence the kids, your generation, and they say the capitalists are greedy crooks, and some are, don't doubt it. But it's a lack of financial education, which is what Rich Dad Quarter is about, my cash flow game, all this stuff. It's really about that education that capitalists know. Void of that education, you'll always be a slave or a laborer to money. Mm-hmm. No worker utopia.
Right. Yeah, and I've been in the school system for a while. I was through public school my entire upbringing. I'm not going to name any specific teachers, but none of them are bad people either. I'll put
no.
But you're right. In the education system today, I mean, financial education is nowhere. I mean, it's really unfortunate, and it's true in K through 12. It's true in higher level academia. So you mentioned how, and we talk a lot about how financial education it's not prevalent in the school system, and I think that explains why you're so popular, Robert. But are there
among students, but not teachers?
Right. Well, you also actually do the real thing too. And that's something that a lot of teachers in higher level in K through 12 don't. Do you think that there's other things, though, that are missing in our school system besides financial education?
Well, it's not so much what's missing as the attitude. Do you know what I mean? It's the attitude. And I talked to your dad about this a lot, is that we're talking about the Supreme Court and whether Trump or Biden wins. It's really not about Trump or Biden. It's about the Supreme Court. And, for your generation, so let's say Ruth Bader Ginsburg dies and they bring in another leftist and a leftist and a leftist. That means your kids' generation will lose more freedoms, because leftists are fascists. And a fascist is somebody who wants to tell you how to run your life. Now, they don't have my permission to do that, but they will. So what I was talking to your dad, he says, what happens in ranching and all this, they have these water acts, but the fascists shoot into ponds and rivers. So you've lost control of your little pond in your backyard and your river. So I've been in Wyoming and I talked to some of those ranchers out there. They want to kill them. They don't like the leftists coming in there telling them how to take care of their ranch or their cattle or their water.
Right. And you have the same issues in Arizona that we have in Nevada. I mean, Nevada is the most arid state in the country. So it's
water is more precious than silver or gold.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, water, silver, gold, you talk a lot about the difference between real and fake assets in your book. So would you be able to just differentiate between what's a real and what's a fake asset?
The cash is flowing. So the difference between asset and liability, where is the cash flowing? So for the average person, their cash is flowing out all the time. So you get married, you get a job, first expense is taxes. Mm-hmm. And you make the tragic mistake of having kids. Those have huge liabilities, Then you buy a house, another huge liability you think are assets. And then you put your money in a 401k, and that's a sucking noise from Wall Street, just sucking the cash out of your pocket. The money's not going into your pocket, it's going to Wall Street's pocket. So I'm not against the 401k or the IRAs and all that stuff. Just look at where the cash is flowing. So assets put money in, cash flows in, liabilities, cash flow out. So for a young guy like you, if you just keep buying assets, like an apartment house here or gold and silver that doesn't decline in value and things like this, you'll be a rich man. It's not about what school you went to. Mm-hmm. So my whole game plan was to buy 20 houses and retire. But once I caught on to the game, I said, why stop? So now I have 8,000. That's a lot of money every month, Teddy, tax-free. Mm-hmm. It's tax-free because I use debt. Everything the financial planner tells you not to do, I do. Mm-hmm. That's a fake teacher of financial planners.
Right. Yeah. And
they hate to.
Right. Yeah. And in the book, you did a really good job of explaining, you're really good at simplifying concepts. An asset puts money into your pocket. A liability puts money out of your pocket.
Sucks it out.
Right. And so for those of you out there who have not read Fake, I strongly recommend you read it because you can learn more about what's a real asset, what's a fake asset, what's a real teacher, what's a fake teacher, and what's real money and what's fake money.
Yeah.
Robert, do you have anything to add?
That's the biggest problem is the dollar is fake. It's fiat currency. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest problem. So all of these guys are working hard for dollars. Mm-hmm. And the teachers, want their tenure and their pensions and all this. We're going broke. Mm-hmm. So It's big money where it starts.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And, your book was really eye-opening in my opinion. So
Thank you.
Yeah. Well,
my best teacher was a story of that Vietnamese woman. Mm-hmm. I flew behind enemy lines as a helicopter pilot. I was looking for gold. Big problem was the gold mine was now in enemy hands. And gold used to be 35 an ounce, and we thought it was going to go to 60 or 70. So my co-pilot and I decided we're going to buy some gold at a discount. And they said, oh, it's behind enemy lines. What an opportunity. Bigger discount. And so Marines aren't bright, we're college graduates, but we aren't bright. So we fly behind enemy lines, we go up to the gold window, and this little Vietnamese woman's there with her little red teeth because she eat beetle nuts. And I tried to get gold at a discount. She just laughed at me. Mm-hmm. She said, spot. She didn't speak English. She said, spot. In other words, spot is the price of gold or silver or palladium or nickel or copper in the commodities market all across the world. So silver today is the same price all over the world, maybe in different currencies, it might be different. But spot is spot. And that was my wake-up call to realizing the US dollar was fake. And ever since then, I've become an asset collector, not a saver. I use debt to acquire real estate. Mm-hmm. I don't need savings. And the real estate provides millions a month in cash flow. Why save it?
Yeah. Well, just one more thing before we go, Robert. Do you have a message for anyone out there, particularly people in my generation, for what's to come?
Well, I don't understand social media. I don't, the social media really, or the technology has changed the world forever. And now it's mob rules versus logic. And when people say PC, politically correct, so that means you're PC. You want, we'd like to be PC. But unfortunately, what PC means today is paycheck. That's what it means. So PC being politically correct means I'm protecting my paycheck. And if you can remember that, that's why you want to remember assets versus liabilities. Mm-hmm. And so the lesson I could leave for young people is you want to get to the point where you don't have to be PC or need a PC. Got it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
Okay, so just be stronger and smarter, which is why I commend you to having great parents.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very fortunate, and I'm also fortunate to have you around as well. You're a role model for me. You're a role model for everyone in my family, and I have a lot of friends who read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and it's kind of like a revelation for them. And all
Yeah.
of your other works as well, including faith. So,
Yeah. It really comes down to a financial statement, assets versus liabilities.
mhm.
And never, if you don't need a PC, paycheck, you don't need to be PC, politically correct. You're a free man
Yeah,
or woman.
right. Sounds good. Well, I think we'll leave it at that. So, Robert, as always, it was a pleasure for you to come on.
Now, it's nice to see you growing up, Ted. You're going fine young man. So keep up the good work. Keep studying. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.